So Tyler,
Alex, that's me.
you're right, buddy.
I'm perfectly fine.
Oh my goodness. Summer is winding down. A lot of the kids in our area are starting to go back to school. I just wanted to, since we are kind of past that point of life, thank goodness, I wanted to see what other than science, what was your favorite subject in school?
I had two. Like early education, like middle school and elementary school, I really liked reading. I was a big book reader.
Reading was definitely up there for me, for sure.
And then once I got to high school, I started like history more because like you didn't really have history in like elementary school.
Very watered down.
Yeah, it's a very watered down history. But like once you get to like, I really like world history. World history is really cool.
World history was cool.
U.S. history's kind of
It's also pretty cool. You gotta have a good teacher for it. I think that's why a lot of people will say, "Oh, I hate history," is because they had a really boring teacher.
My favorite class was
the way they
for history
to.
Was in college. I did after the war.
Yeah, it's like America post World War II.
Yeah, and it was great. It was fantastic. Favorite.
A lot happened.
Yeah, a lot happened.
Short amount of time.
I had a great teacher. But anyway, Alex, I'm Tyler. That's Alex, as we already said. Welcome to Life: The Complete Story, where we talk about science, not history.
Mostly.
Although you could have a history podcast called Life: The Complete Story, too.
Probably, actually.
But today we'll start out as we always do with our nature in the news. I found this
one's pretty cool.
It is by NASA from the JPL, their Jet Propulsion Laboratory. They ran a whole bunch of simulations using the ECCO model. Yeah, the Jet Propulsion Lab and MIT are doing this. It's kind of like a joint study, but they're running these simulations. So every year, Greenland has an ice sheet that melts a little bit more and more each year. About 293 billion tons of ice per year, it says.
That's 290 minutes, so 266 billion metric tons.
Yeah.
That's
which is over 300,000 gallons of water. This is fresh water, by the way. This is fresh water that goes into the salt water. And I believe fresh water is lighter, obviously, because there's no salt content in it.
This is an excellent question. Oh, yeah, it's fresh and more buoyant than the surrounding salt water. Should have just kept reading.
Yeah, and this helps delivers a lot of nutrients from that fresh water into the salt water, which helps with a lot of things. In freshwater, this is a big problem. These cause like algal blooms and things in areas it's not supposed to be. In this area, not so much an issue. It's kind of circulating those nutrients into a kind of nutrient
poor.
Poor. It's not exactly a dead zone, but it is a poorer region just because
Arctic waters.
Yes,
and a lot of it very cold. Not great for sustaining life.
However, we're seeing a 57% surge in phytoplankton growth between 1998 and 2018. So it's in that 20-year span. That's almost a 60% jump in phytoplankton.
That's wild.
And that's just off one glacier, I believe.
That's pretty great.
They are running this test over I think they said over 200 glaciers. They're running a simulation on to see what the effect it would have. And
more than 250 such glaciers around Greenland.
Mm-hmm.
So that's just Greenland itself.
Yeah, this isn't worldwide. This is just in Greenland. And there's some changes that we're seeing most often in the carbon cycle, which is kind of obvious because the phytoplankton is creating more. Yeah. You're getting more biomass from phytoplankton.
Yeah, but it looks like it has a lot to do with the nitrogen cycle as well, because it is introducing a lot of nitrates that were trapped within the ice back into the water.
Yeah, and eventually will make its way back into the ice through atmospheric nitrogen.
Yeah. Yeah, as it says, model takes pretty much all the available ocean measurements collected by sea and satellite-based instruments over the past 3 decades. So they've got like billions of data points, water temp, salinity, pressure at the sea floor. That's what they're using to compile these models. So it's not just you punch in some numbers and hope for the best. These are incredibly data-dense models.
Yeah, you're throwing a lot of numbers into a calculation to run this sandbox.
Yeah.
But that's all I have, Alex. You have anything else to add?
I don't. That's pretty cool. Just kind of seeing how we talked a couple weeks ago about succession and like glacier receding is one of those methods of primary succession that we talked about. This is kind of where that
Yeah,
ties it
this is
all
a
in.
continuation. Yes,
Yes.
we're making a web
Yes.
because we'll talk a little bit later on about Arctic waters again. But today we're talking for our lesson about the gataforms.
Yes.
Gataforms are a moderately large order, not order, not order.
Is it a
K, P, phi, nope, not phylum. No, it's an order.
yeah?
I'm just dumb.
Kingdom, phylum, class, order, family, genus,
Super
species.
order. It'd be more of a super order.
Okay.
Yeah. Fairly large. Alex has put up a nice picture for us
No,
about
gataforms is an order.
mother trucker.
Okay, continue. I'm sorry.
Anyway, there's quite a few very popular fish. You know, the Atlantic cod, the haddock, burbot. Some of these are popular food fish, commercially successful fish. But they all kind of share a similar-ish body shape. They are found worldwide, typically from the temperate to the polar regions, although they can be found in some subtropical regions as well.
Yeah, so that's quite the switch from most everything else we've talked about.
Yeah, a lot of what we talked about so far has been tropics to temperate regions. Now we're getting temperate to subpolar and even polar regions.
Yeah.
Some fish can tolerate both fresh and salt water, but only the burbot is a true freshwater fish, and we will talk about that later.
Yes.
They are physoclists. I might be saying that wrong, but that basically means that their swim bladder does not have a pneumatic duct. We've talked about a couple groups before who have a pneumatic duct in their swim bladder that helps them breathe in air, like helps them with air breathing,
Yeah. So like
particularly
pneumatic,
nutrient poor regions,
I think
oxygen
so.
deficient regions.
Yeah. Yeah. So pneumatic, like PNEUM, meaning like the lungs are like air. So that if you think of like pneumatic tools, they're air tools. So this duct would connect to, they don't really have lungs. I guess it'd be more connect to the gills, or if they use their swim bladder as a lung, quote unquote.
They have spineless fins, so there's no. They have they have fins, but there's no spines in the fin. How there's like kind of like in other species, there's the spines, and they kind of act like the little fingers between the webbings.
Yeah.
This is just a straight.
So their rays like soft, or is it all flesh?
I believe it'd be well, a flesh one would be more of a lobe, so it'd be a
True.
soft.
True. They're just not like the hard rays that we're used to
Yeah,
on a lot of our freshwater fish.
a lot of them have. Well, no, there's a big size range between them. Some of these codlets we'll talk about have about a 3-inch size, while some of the larger species, mainly Atlantic and Pacific cod, can go up to 6.5 feet, which is what makes them very popular food fish, is their size and their
You get a lot out of one. Yeah.
Yeah. Our first suborder for the day, Alex, is
Breg Massarotidae. You wanted me to say one of the hard ones, didn't you?
the way it lucked out. I think you do have most of the hard ones.
That's fine. I'll make it work. So these are the codlets. These guys are found in the tropical and subtropical waters. So they're a bit of the exception, it seems, with the gataforms. They are quite small, the largest members only being about 4.5 inches long. So quite small. They are the second most basal member of this order, which means they are the closest to what would be considered the original cod, the original gataform, whatever the cod species that the rest of them branched out from. This is the second closest to what that original cod would have looked like.
So the original cod is Paleogatus weltoni from the Maastrichtian era
Yeah, sure.
period, whatever you want to call it.
Okay. Interesting.
Yeah.
So these guys are named for the occipital ray that extends from their head. So in the picture that Tyler pulled up, you can see they basically have like just one little ray. It almost looks like just a little cowlick straight off the top of their head.
Yeah.
But there are 17 species in the genera of Brigmaceros.
That's the single genus.
So
within
there's,
the
okay,
family.
so it's a monogenetic
Monotypic
clade,
family.
monotypic family. Nice. Well, then that will move us to our next family. Tyler?
Our next group is Phycidae. These guys are a group of, they're known as hakes. There's not a whole bunch on them. My bad. We're in the suborder Gadoideae, but this is the family Phycidae.
So you were right in saying family, but they are broken down a little more.
Yeah, there are two genera, Physis and Europhysis. And something that I kind of want to explain now before we get further into cod is the body shape of a cod, because I thought I put it earlier, but I didn't. Most cod members have a similar body plan of
Allow me to zoom.
3 dorsal fins and 2 anal fins. This one has 2. It's a variation. Some have 2 dorsals and 1 anal, or 3 dorsals and 2 anals.
And a lot, it
And
looks like a lot like this one, the Physis. It's basically like if they have only 1 or 2, it's because that those later ones
are more
are
conjoined,
like all
or
fused into
continuated,
one.
yeah. Also to note, the front dorsal fin is typically shorter in length but taller, whereas the further dorsal fin, closer towards the caudal fin, is oftentimes goes from the start point and the termination point is typically towards way at the back towards the caudal fin.
Yeah.
And that's really all we got about these guys. Like I said, there's 11 species within those 2 genera, Physis and Europhysis. Alex, what do we got next?
Next, we have Gydropseridae. So this is a small family of the gataforms. They are found worldwide, known as the rocklings. There are 3 genera holding 19 species. There you go. There's a nice picture of one. You didn't know what you're looking at. You could almost confuse that for a catfish.
Yeah, or a snakehead almost.
Actually, snakehead more than a catfish.
Because snakeheads also have like
the little
barbels
nose,
towards their nostrils.
barbels. But there are 3 genera that have 19 species. The genera are Ciliata, Anchileopus, and Gydroposaurus.
Yes. And this specific image is of, what is this? Gydropsaurus mediterranus, I believe.
Okay, so probably from the Mediterranean.
I would assume that would be a good.
That's a pretty easy.
Yes, it is the shore rockling, is its familial name.
Oh, that makes sense. Why it was so easily pictured.
Yes,
photographed. That's the right word.
Our next group is going to be Lotidae. This is another family within that suborder of Gadoideae. They are also known as hakes or burbots. They are found in the Arctic. That's a burbot right there. They are found in the Arctic and Atlantic Oceans. For the more marine species, obviously the burbot is found exclusively in freshwater. They are an important food and game fish. There are 5 members in 3 genera. So the brosme would be the cusk, which we had pictured in the very first image earlier in the session, with the big overview of all the members of cod, not all, but the popular members of the cod family. Lota would be the burbot, and they are I believe, European. Yeah, they're found widely spread through Europe, many freshwater areas. And then The last three species are marine species known as lings.
Cool.
All right, Alex, what do we got in the last family of Godoidae?
So in the last family of Godoidae, we have the family Gatidae, the last family in the suborder Godoidae.
Yeah, what did I call it a subfamily?
I think you called it a family, and then I was also wrong. But so the family Gatidae, these are the true cod, contain a lot of popular food fish like the haddock or the pollock. The majority of these species are found in temperate waters of the northern hemisphere, but they range from subtropical to subarctic. Tyler's pulled up a picture. You can see generally that medium size with those 3 dorsal fins and 2 anal fins. You can see there he's talking that first dorsal fin is not quite as long, but it's taller, and then they're kind of symmetrical as you go down, at least in the image that he's pulled up. Many of them possess chin barbels, the little whisker-looking things on the bottom of the image, right by the mouth. Those are used for browsing along the sea floor, so these tend to be deeper. Some of them tend to be much deeper dwelling fish, typically carnivorous, feeding on small fish and crustaceans, which would make sense why they would be on the seafloor. They're typically prolific spawners, often laying several million eggs each spawning, which is why these fish are so readily harvested. And it hasn't terribly affected the populations. Of course, there has been some decline that has been seen, but not what you would expect for how much we fish these, because cod is
Easily the most popular food fish.
Yeah, I'd say typically when you go somewhere and get fish, if you just say fish, it's typically cod unless they say otherwise.
It's typically cod or whitefish, and lo and behold,
Yeah.
whitefish is also a cod.
Yeah, or like catfish because they're easier to farm. But
Yeah,
that's also a little more regional, I think, or at least restaurant
it's
specific.
American things.
Yeah. So that will take us into, we have a few. I think these are these the genus?
These would be the genera.
The genera, yes, genera.
Yeah,
Yeah, man,
today.
I'm not on it today. I
Not
don't know why.
scientific brained.
I had to use my brain too much today at work. But yeah, Tyler, if you want to take us through a couple of the genus.
Yeah, so
Genera?
we got I'll go through them all, and we can just so our first genera is Arctogatus. These guys are Arctic cod, reaching about 30 centimeters long, and favorite food to many Arctic marine predators, including narwhals and other toothed whales within the area. So, like, I wouldn't say so much orcas because they're so much larger, and they can feast on seals and penguins.
Yeah.
Well, not really penguins up north, but
Seals.
larger creatures.
Yes, much larger.
And these guys are predators as well, feeding primarily on copepods, amphipods, and mysids. Our next genera is going to be Boreogatus, another species of Arctic cod, slightly smaller, reaching only about 25 centimeters. They are the furthest north living fish, living in latitudes above 84 degrees north. Right? That's the right one.
Yeah, I think so. Yeah, because it starts at 0 at the equator.
Yeah, it's latitude though? Okay, yeah. And what makes these guys special and how they're able to survive at such high latitudes, they have high amounts of glycoproteins in their blood acting as an antifreeze. So that stops ice crystals from forming in their bloodstream, since blood is mostly, water. That's the word. I was like, I don't want to be an idiot and say water, but water.
Plasma is water.
Yes. So there's glycoproteins that help prevent freezing of the blood of the plasma. And Alex has pulled up a Boreogatus species. Our next group is going to be...
This is Boreogatus saida.
Any familial name? Or... Oh, God, perfect. Our next group is going to be Lignus. This is the saffron cod and the navanga. Both medium-sized food fish. They reach about a kilogram and 55 centimeters. There's not much on them since it's just the two species. Our next group is gadiculus. They are known as the silvery pouts. They're small fish rarely growing more than 6 inches and are of minor importance to fisheries. So not unlike most cod species, they are not a popular food fish. Our next group is going to be gaddis. This is the big heavy hitters. These are the Atlantic and Pacific cod, as well as the Alaskan pollock, all three major food fish. They are larger fish, reaching about 55 inches, although there have been recorded catches of 70 inches and well over 100 pounds, which is a lot of fish.
That's a lot of fish.
Yeah.
And they typically, I believe these are schooling fish as well. So they usually catch them in big drag nets.
Yeah, the shoal nets or whatever.
Yeah.
They're most often a brownish green in color, as you can kind of see in the image that Alex has pulled up. They have that typical 3 dorsal, 2 anal fin pattern, as we talked about a couple times so far. And in some areas, there has been overfishing in the past, which has led to a trophic cascade in some areas, and some haven't recovered quite yet, even with fishing bans dating back to the 90s. And we'll talk a little bit more about trophic cascades later on in the episode.
Yes, sir.
Our next group is going to be melanogrammus. These guys are the haddock. They are a popular food fish from the North Atlantic, more popular in Europe than in the U.S., solely because they're more abundant on that side of the Atlantic than our side. They are a demersal species, which means that they live towards the seafloor. And they can lay over 1 million eggs in one clutch, and that's dependent on the size of the mother. Smaller ones obviously lay closer to about 500,000 to 600,000, while the larger ones will lay over 1 million eggs. And Alex pulled up a picture of a haddock.
Yes, sir. A small one.
Yes. Our next group is going to be Merlangius. They are native to the northeastern Atlantic, ranging from about the island of Iceland all the way down to the Mediterranean. And there's not a whole bunch that I have on them. Yeah, these are the whitings. They're kind of smaller versions of a cod, about 27 inches.
Okay.
Yeah, and they used to be a cheap food fish meant for the poor people. Although now that they have declined overall, more species are known as a whiting in the food industry. So like drum, some species of drum and other things are known as whiting as well. And that's gonna do it for the family Gatidae. Alex, what do we have next?
So that will take us to.
Yep.
I was trying to figure out if they were like suborders or if they were.
No, we are in family still.
The Ranaceptidae. These are called the tadpole fish, native to the coasts of France, Ireland, and the UK. So that kind of English Channel, northeastern Atlantic. They grow to about 10 inches in length. They really aren't important fishery fish. Like they're not something that people catch to eat, but they are used some in the aquarium trade.
Yes. Is that the next group? Am I on the next group? Yes. Today. These are the Melucid hakes. They're found in subtropical to subpolar water. They grow about 5 feet, although most of the time they're like half that length, 28-ish inches to 28 to 32 inches. There's several species between the two genera, and they are a popular commercial fish.
Boop. There you go. Quick picture.
Quick picture.
Yes, sir.
There's 15 species.
15 species.
Yes.
Got to get it right.
Yeah.
Well, that will then take us into the family. Oh boy. Thyidae.
That's the one.
Yeah, Euclithidae. Euclithidae. Man, that's a rough one. These are also known as
I don't want you to have fun with pronouncing.
These are also known as the Eucla cod. They are a deep water fish typically found off the coasts of Australia.
This is really the first one we've talked about that's been like southern hemisphere.
Yeah. So it's pretty special in that regard. They have 2 near continuous dorsal fins So the front one is a very tall, short one, or not very long, and the rear one is very short but very long. Pretty much connects
Yeah.
from the back of that one all the way to the tail, as you can see in the picture that Tyler pulled up. So pretty cool. I'll cover the next one as well, just because we keep the names going, and it's pretty small also. So our next one is the Muranolepididae. These are the eel cod. There's not a whole lot about them. It's only two genera, Muranoleps and Notomuranobathus.
Yep. They're most of the ones we're talking about now are more offshore, like open ocean to deep sea species. So they're like the observation and studying is very infrequent.
Makes sense.
Yes. Our next group will be Melanonidae. Melanonidae. There are two species. They're small fish with black in color, living in the midwaters away from coasts. Yeah, there's little known, but presumably they're not very commercially valuable since we don't know much about them.
Also very small, kind of freaky looking. There you go.
Wow, what are these called again? Much like they're familiar.
This is Melanonis zugmeye.
So these guys are known as arrowtails or pelagic cod familiarly. Obviously, because they have a longer caudal fin, hence the name arrowtail.
Yeah, very long and skinny.
Our next group is going to be Trachyrincidae. These guys are more deep water fish. They have long, narrow, and pointy snouts in some families, while other families have larger, more rounded heads with tiny eyes and an absent chin bubble.
There you go.
There you go. Look at that.
Freaky.
Trachyrhynchus scabrous, which would be the rough snout grenadier. I have nothing else to add to these guys.
Yeah, it seems like there's probably not a lot about them. They're
No.
just kind of goofy looking,
Yeah.
goofy little guys.
Looking deep water species.
Yeah. And then lastly, we have one more small family. It is the family Moridae. These guys, they can get pretty decent size, growing up to about 35 inches. They resemble the true cod very much on the exterior, but they are really only distinguished by their skeleton and their swim bladder. Do you have anything about the swim bladder that really? Here you go. I found it. Typically shallower water, quote unquote, compared to some of the other species, but so their swim bladder has a different structure than the regular.
Yes. There's a bunch of different like genera for them.
Yeah.
So there's quite a bit of species to it. Just not much within each genera to really cover. And there's a couple more families that also don't have a lot of information for similar reasons. Those ones would be Macruronidae, Lyconidae, Bathygatidae, Steindachneridae, and Macruridae. Yes.
They're very there's not a whole lot about them that's anything different.
Very lesser known cod and whatever they have a lot of similarities to the typical cod that we've already covered. So we'll move on into our recurring segments. Alex, I'll kick us off with our amazing species for the day.
Yes, sir.
Today we're talking the Atlantic cod, which I kind of alluded to a little bit earlier, saying that, the lack of Atlantic cod has caused trophic cascade. These guys are found worldwide, last assessed in 1996. So the population very well could have boomed again.
Yeah, if they are anything like the rest of the cod where they can lay tons of eggs at once, it's quite possible.
But they are found in the Atlantic Ocean for obvious reasons. The Atlantic cod is found in the Atlantic Ocean. I really picked a bad one that has little to no information on any of its little IUCN tabs.
Yeah.
But, Alex, if you want to talk about your most wanted while I find some non-IUCN sources for Atlantic cod endangerment.
Yeah. Yeah. So then I will take us, as we talked about before, the burbot. is going to be our most wanted for today. It is that freshwater cod we talked about. So they like a lot of the cod, they're typically more cold water species. They can be found in a lot of the northern lakes and rivers in the United States, areas like Mississippi, but even all the way down into the lower parts of the Mississippi from like Minnesota, Lake Superior. Typically water temps below 70 degrees in the summer, but so they're pretty calm in the summer, but come wintertime, they become a lot more active. They live quite a long time, about 15 years. The records are just over 19 pounds, typically under 8. But they eat a lot of other fish like yellow perch and walleye, which are two very important game and food fish, especially in the Great Lakes region. But they also consume things like fish eggs, clams, crayfish, mayfly larvae, and other aquatic species. So that is why they are sort of considered an invasive once they get outside of their native range, I guess. Yeah, but typically northern waters into northern Europe. I'm not trying to find kind of why a specific area where they are considered invasive.
All right. Well, while he does that,
Yeah,
I'll circle back to
yeah,
my
I
Atlantic
found it.
cod.
It looks like
So,
yeah. It's just that once they get like into areas where they are not native, they can really yeah, they can be considered a nuisance fish because they are such voracious predators. So I mean,
so
in the
they're
native
more of a
areas,
nuisance, not invasive.
sort of, yeah. I mean, it's just because they can affect like other game fish, sport fish populations.
Mm-hmm.
They're in a lot of areas like the young burbot are prey to other large predators like pike, bass, things. So I think in areas where you have a lot of those larger predators, it's not as big a deal. But if you get somewhere like this one is showing in Utah, where they really don't have some of those bigger predators in some of the lakes, they can become a problem, especially because they feed on fish eggs such as like the sockeye salmon or brown trout. So I think it's one of those that they're afraid that it's going to decimate sport fish populations, but it hasn't really given
Okay, so it's one of those,
been given a
if left
chance.
unchecked, will cause
Yeah,
major issues, but we're doing a somewhat decent job right now of keeping it under control.
more or less. Yeah.
Okay, here we go. Little information. I have found some information on the Atlantic cod. So a couple things I found. So obviously they were a very popular food fish up until about the 90s. There was a steep drop, which isn't the first drop we've seen. So let's put it this way. Let's open image in new tab. Share. So I have a graph, if it would let me share. Thank you. Here we go. Perfect image showing the amount of cod caught per million tons. So this is 1970, really, where we see this big peak of almost 2 million tons of cod caught.
That's insane.
Yeah. And then it dips down to roughly about 0.5 million tons. So 500,000 tons of cod and towards the late 70s, early 80s. And then you see a significant drop to about 100,000 tons of cod come the turn of the century. And that's where you start to see that major overfishing, where we just overfished all the fisheries, really. And there's some studies that say that like some of these fisheries aren't recovering or aren't going to recover. Although the most recent article I saw for that was like 2008, and that was an article about a cod fishery off the coast of Newfoundland, which has been unable to rebound since that fishing ban in the 90s, saying that its stock would be extirpated or less than 0.3 of the species' original biomass within 20 years. And even if you completely close off all cod fishing, they give it 38 years tops for it. So that we're getting close to that date now, because if this was in 2008, it's now 2025. So that's like 15 years. And I don't know if this
Yeah.
was dating back to like its original ban, in which case we'd be getting like super close to, because that would be like the 1990s, which would be like
Yeah.
2028 as like a end of the world date for this fishery. But that's really all I have. Obviously, the blue would be Canada. So just Canada produced that amount of cod. So that would be that Newfoundland fishery, as well as other areas like
Nova Scotia, that
Yeah,
eastern coast of Canada,
Newfoundland, Nova Scotia, eastern coast stuff.
which relied
Alex,
heavily on that cod fishery and fishing in general, just because they're coastal communities.
yes. But we have reached our final segment for the day, Alex.
Yes, sir. So today, and this is very applicable to what we're talking about today. We're talking about what is called a trophic cascade. So
I
that
believe we've kind of alluded to this a couple times throughout the show,
little bit,
through our 50-some episodes.
yes. So the big factor in trophic cascade is usually some sort of predator, either the top predator or the like a upper level predator in a community in some sort of ecosystem. And what this does is this allows your lower level consumers. So in one of the biggest cases that are referenced for this is like Yellowstone National Park. For the longest time, there were no wolves in Yellowstone, and it was seen that a lot of things like the deer and the elk, those large herbivores, then flourished because there wasn't anything big enough to control their populations. And being a national park, you can't hunt in it, and they were starting to see a lot of problems with that. And then they were starting to see less organisms, and what they found is they reintroduced wolves, and they found that when you control, especially in the case of Yellowstone with the large herbivores that are going to eat a lot, you're going to see a handful of things. You're going to see more diversity overall of plants and animals. You actually see healthier populations in those animals that are being consumed by the wolves, like the elk, the deer, things like that, because now they are not like hitting carrying capacity and uh, over the level that they should be at to safe, that is able to be safely supported, I guess is the best way to put it, or sustainably supported by that by that. So it's one of those, and what we're talking about today with the cod, losing the cod has caused
Yeah, because
a lot
cod
of
are the
smaller.
apex predator within that ecosystem.
Yeah.
So now you're losing the cod, like the cod species in that ecosystem. So you're allowing the smaller, mid-sized predators to flourish, which in some cases are could be invasive species. I want to say the lionfish. I know the lionfish is a big problem.
Yeah, I don't think they get that far north.
I don't think they go that far north. They're more subtropical to tropical versus subtropical to polar. But there are a couple marine species that would be more problem fish because of this. Although it's not something you really see in a marine ecosystem solely because
mobility.
Mobility, exactly. And Alex, this is a perfect demonstration, especially your Yellowstone thing, because as these elk hit their carrying capacity, obviously they can't eat the trees and the larger, woodier species, so they're focusing more on shrubs and things they can browse on readily, so you're getting less biodiversity within those types of plants, which has caused the die out of a whole bunch of other things that use specifically those shrubs and smaller woody to herbaceous plants as their main food. So, birds and things like that tend to die out, and it causes an issue there. although this isn't the only type of cascade you have, this was a top-down cascade. There's also a bottom-up cascade, right, Alex?
I believe so. It's a little less prevalent.
It doesn't happen as often because a bottom-up cascade would be you taking out the producer or a less, or not necessarily producer, but a lesser predator or the primary consumer.
Yeah. Typically in the bottom, yeah, saying like top down versus bottom up control. Typically, bottom up is you're adding more of a producer, which in some cases would be good, like kind of a counter desertification. So actually, that would be a bottom up desertification where a habitat is basically turned into a desert that was like grassland or something, and when you lose that producer, you lose everything. It affects everything above it.
Think of the tragedy of the commons. And if you don't
Yeah.
know what that is, Middle Ages, medieval times, you had a common plot, and all the farmers took their livestock to that common plot to feed because it was cheap and easy.
It was public space. So it's like in cities, it was public space to like for people to, like they would have like a small goat or a dairy cow or something for milk or something that, and they would take that to that common area because there was not like almost like a park where there was grass to feed them. But as more people bring them to those
as you use
areas,
more and more of the common area to feed more and more of your cow, goat, whatever, you are using up more of the producer, and there's not exactly anything in place to plant more grass seed or anything like that. So it's causing a desertification where it's just dirt or clay or whatever the soil is there. There's no greenery per se, besides the trees or whatever, larger inedible to those consumers. And it causes issues where other things that would eat them, natural things that would eat them, aren't able to because you're just overgrazing with livestock and farm animals, that the natural ecosystem is obliterated.
Yeah. So like in the image I pulled up and as well with Yellowstone, he actually saw to the point where because the elk population had grown to a point where there were no young trees growing up because they were all being basically scalped by the elk as they were browsing. So then it started to turn just into like a grassland, which really doesn't support anything other than like the elk and the deer because they're big ruminant herbivores. So you didn't see a whole lot of, you would see like smaller predators and things like mice. You saw a lot fewer birds. And actually the point where the beaver had gone extinct in Yellowstone because there was like no tree cover. So as the wolves start to control the elk, allow those forests to reestablish, then you get things like the beaver and like some of these other animals that have become more or less locally extinct are now returning. So it is a pretty significant factor, like why these trophic pyramids, trophic webs, why they are so interconnected, and like you can't take something out without something else being affected. And that is why we cover our amazing species, is because some of them, like the cod, are what is known as a keystone species, where if you lose that, it gets bad fast.
Yeah. And no matter which way you think of it, whether you think of it as a food web, a food pyramid, or a food chain, if you remove one link from the chain, one dot from the web, one layer of the pyramid, the rest of that
It is
thing
now incomplete.
does not work.
Yeah. Or if it works, it's not working well.
Yeah, there is a gear missing from that machine. But that's all I have. Alex, I think we had a great conversation.
Yeah, that was very good. I'm quite happy with that. Hopefully everyone understood. That's something we could, if we wanted to get real specific into Yellowstone, or what is the island in Lake Michigan?
I know what you talked about where they just They just airdrop wolves to control the moose population? Nope.
Yeah,
I forget
whereas
with
in
the
Lake
case study.
Superior. Isle Royale is in Lake
Yeah,
Superior.
my keyword search was Wolf Island case study.
Wolf Island, Lake Michigan is what mine was, but it's actually Lake Superior. So this, kind of continuing our conversation on Isle Royale, there was a moose population that had boomed out of control and basically just removed a lot of the undergrowth of vegetation from the island, and it's just become out of control. So then the Michigan DNR or whatever it is introduced wolves to the island and it helped control the moose population. So the island was able to come back. And this is one of those case studies where you see like carrying capacity, because it had gotten to the point where the moose were becoming very sick, and like the whole island
not sustain the population of moose that they had on the island. So there was a flat line that would be the moose population. Without,
it had gotten to a point where it become problematic because it couldn't support all the moose. They were eating themselves to death basically because they ate so much, and then there was no food left. So then you'd have dead moose everywhere. Nothing like cleaning that up either, because it takes a long time for the flies to break down a whole moose carcass.
You lost your large carnivore. Really, your only carnivore on the island that's not like a mink or a fisher or something.
Yeah, what is considered small carnivores. Even coyote are small carnivores because they don't hunt in big enough packs to take down something like a moose or an elk.
So
they even struggle with an adult deer.
Yeah, your major cleanup crew for the island, which would be the wolf, is now gone. So even just the decomposition of animals takes exponentially longer.
Yeah, among many other things.
Yes. But do you have anything else, Alex?
I do not. I think I've talked everyone's ear off for enough.
We have milked the well on trophic cascades, which is good.
I think I talked everyone's ear off enough.
So, as always, make sure to follow us on, get this, Spotify, iHeartRadio, or Amazon Music for your podcast needs.
Still working on Apple Podcasts.
Yeah, Apple
it's a little more difficult.
Likes to be a little bit dumb. Every time I log in to Apple, it says, "Oh, please log in on an iOS device using iOS blah blah blah." I use an Android. Can't do that.
Yeah.
So, that being said, follow us on Spotify, Amazon Music, or iHeartRadio, wherever you listen to your podcasts. YouTube as well. Make sure to like, comment, subscribe to the YouTube page, do whatever.
Follow whatever.
Follow us on Instagram and TikTok at Life Complete Story for clips, amazing species, short form content, as well as Facebook for news articles. I will try to get one of those up before this podcast comes out in whenever.
Yeah. Yeah, we're actually ahead at the moment somehow after getting behind.
We're about 2 weeks ahead.
Yeah.
But I've been Tyler.
And I have been Alex.
Oh, make sure to email us too if you want.
Oh, yeah. I always forget about that.
Any type of video idea, podcast idea. Obviously, podcast ideas are a little bit harder for us to get to because we're kind of going right down the line.
But if we get somewhere where like we have a break that we can like shove something different in, we'll make it work.
It in for you guys.
Yeah.
Yeah, I've been Tyler. That's been Alex. Alex, what we always say
is keep on learning, learn something new. You'll never know what you'll find interesting. But as he said, we have been Life the Complete Story. Thank you for listening, and we'll see you next week.